Hi everyone, I'm Miranda and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be filming a massive book haul, my January book haul. I've actually had to be a little bit selective because my book haul has been especially big this month because I was given all 20 of the shortlisted Costa Book Awards books. I'm not going to show you all 20 on here because I thought that would just take too long, and I've also had a lot of other books this month that I want to share with you. So what I've done is I've just taken a little selection from the 20 shortlisted titles. I also already spoke about the 5 category award-winning books. I'll link the video up here so you can check that out because I'm not talking about those books again today because there are just too many others that I want to share with you all. So I think these are pretty much all the books that have been sent to me in January. Some might have been at the very end of December, not completely sure, but I definitely haven't shared them with you anyway, and they've definitely all mainly been in January. There's a lot to get through. Let's get started. Okay, so this is actually my current read. This is a proof copy of A Bite of the Apple, A Life with Books, Writers and Virago by Lenny Goodings. Lenny Goodings was with Virago from almost the very beginning, so she tells a really fascinating story of this incredible publishing house that was set up really to be a feminist press. It published right from the beginning a wide variety of books by women from all different genres. Virago is still one of my favourite publishing companies. The work that it does to promote women in literature is still amazing. But I'm really keen to learn more about the history of this publishing company and of the authors that they published along the way. And I'm absolutely loving this book so far. It's so fascinating. It's so inspiring to someone like myself who would like to write. And just the characters that Lenny Goodings describes in the book are wonderful. I mean, she had a really close relationship with Maya Angelou, for instance, and her sort of colleagues that she describes were obviously quite characters sometimes, but also just really amazing women. So it's such an inspiring read. Absolutely thrilled to have got an advanced copy of this. I'll do a proper review of it obviously when I've finished, but this will be coming out on the 27th of February as a hardback. It's published by Oxford University Press, and yeah, definitely put this one on your list. This is a real book for book lovers. This book I bought. I'd heard such good things about it already. It was getting a lot of hype. It's called Such a Fun Age by Kylie Reid. It was Reese Witherspoon's choice for her book club for January, and I just really liked the sound of it. So I had to buy it. I've read it. I adored it. It's so good. Kylie's being compared to Sally Rooney. This is so much better, in my opinion, than Sally Rooney. Not the biggest Sally Rooney fan anyway, although I appreciate that a lot of people love her work and I think she is a good writer. But to me, this book is just so much better. It's about class, it's about race, it's about female friendships, female status, and how that affects women's relationships. And it's just such a smart, slightly cynical, but really witty, really sharp take on modern day society. And it's set in Pennsylvania. I can't recommend this enough. I'll do a proper review of it when I do my next kind of recent reads video. But yeah, absolutely loved this book and highly recommend everyone getting and reading this one. This is one of the shortlisted Costa books that I pulled out to share with you of the ones that I was sent. It's called Crossfire by Mallory Blackman, a Noughts and Crosses novel. This is a series of YA books that I've heard a lot about. I haven't read any of them yet, and partly why I'm not reading this one yet is because I want to read the first in the series before coming to this one. Not sure what number in the series this is, but when you look on the back, there are quite a few of them already. I don't know a lot about them, apart from that I've heard really good reviews. I don't know if there's a bit of fantasy. Some people seem to be labelled noughts, some people seem to be labelled crosses. So, yeah, I'm not quite sure. I don't know a lot about this, but I'd kind of like to go into the series blind. So this has prompted me to seek out the first in the series, which I really want to do, and to read that because they sound really intriguing. This then is another book I bought myself. It's called The Hunting Party by Lucy Foley. It's set in Scotland over New Year's Eve. A group of friends rent this very luxurious sounding villa, and they see in New Year's Eve together, but someone dies, and it becomes, it sounds a bit like an Agatha Christie novel, but a modern take of that, because it's the very sort of country house murder mystery type book. And because Burns Night just happened, and I always want to read books about Scotland or Scottish literature this time in January generally, I thought this one sounded really fun, so I bought it and I can't wait to read it. It looks quite chunky, but the print is big, so I think I'll get through this quickly. And there's a character in called Miranda in this book, which I'm excited about, because there aren't many Mirandas in literature, so I hope she doesn't turn out to be the murderer. But we'll see. This sounds like fun. Another book from the Costa shortlist. This is a poetry collection, The Mizzy by Paul Farley. I've started reading some of these poems and I really like them. There are quite a few poems about nature and about the passage of time, which are both themes that I really enjoy. There's a poem in this called The Robin that I really liked. So this has been a really interesting collection to just start dipping in and out of. And I haven't read any of Paul Farley's work before, but I am enjoying this one. And it's a beautiful cover too, which is never a bad thing. So yeah, I've been liking dipping into this January. I was really excited to be sent this book, Victory in the Kitchen, The Life of Churchill's Cook by Annie Gray. Annie Gray is an incredible food historian. I've interviewed her in the past on my podcast called Tea and Tattle. I interviewed her about her book called The Greedy Queen, which was all about Queen Victoria and her life seen through the food that she enjoyed and what she ate. And it was such an entertaining, informative read. I really like Annie Gray's style, so I already know that I'm going to love this. I've started it. Let me see, it's going to be published on the 6th of February, and I think this is just such a great idea for a book. It's looking at the life of Winston Churchill and World War II, but through the lens of his cook. And he apparently praised his cook very highly and said that Britain couldn't have won the war without her, or something like that, he said. So I know that this is going to be a fascinating look at Churchill, at London, and that period of history, World War II, and seen through the eyes of someone who hasn't really been written about before. So really looking forward to this one. I bought this little book for myself in January. It's called The Self-Care Cookbook by Gemma Ogston. Easy healing plant-based recipes. And I picked this one up because I just thought it was a nice idea. It's not just recipes, but sort of little ideas that Gemma has written about, essentially on how to live better. So there are little ideas for sort of cutting down on plastic, having a sort out through your larder. There are also recipes, so you can see she's got banana cake, and they are all sort of plant-based recipes, but as I've mentioned before, I'm making a lot more vegetarian food at the moment, so I'm going to enjoy this. And I just like how she's divided up the book into Restore, Rebalance, Reflect, Renew and TLC. And so she's basically come up with both activities and suggestions as well as recipes that go under each of those topics. So just a nice little idea and something I thought I would probably enjoy reading in January. This was the other Costa shortlisted book that I pulled out because it was one I was particularly interested in reading. It's called Shadow Play by Joseph O'Connor, and it's about Bram Stoker before he wrote Dracula. It's a second book kind of in that theme that I've seen recently, so I'm sort of interested to read them. The other book is called Dracul. I can't remember who it's by, but it's on my shelves, and I'm just curious to read both of those books. It's sort of about Bram Stoker's early life and how he how he came to write Dracula. Another book I bought secondhand on the recommendation of my mum, who's a huge reader too, and she's a big fan of Jane Duncan, who I believe is a Scottish author. Well, she wrote a lot of books set in Scotland, but I think she was Scottish. This one is called My Friend, My Father. I don't know a lot about them, but I trust my mum's judgment on things, and she said she thought I would really enjoy Jane Duncan's books. This one looks lovely and wintry from the cover, so I'm looking forward to trying this one out. Next one was another book that was sent to me as it's a proof copy, Where the Crawdads Sing by Celia Owens. This is the proof of the paperback. It's really beautiful, and I've heard everyone raving about this book, but I haven't actually read it yet. It's going to be a film as well, so I definitely do want to read this and see what all the fuss is about. It's set in North Carolina in 1969, and it's about a girl who lives out in the marshland completely alone, and it's about how the villagers interact with her. I think someone dies and suspicion is thrown on her, so it's all about the tensions that arise from that, and it sounds really interesting. Let me know if you've read this one and what you thought of it, because I feel like I'm quite behind in not having read it yet, but I really want to get to this one soon. So another book that was sent to me is Me and White Supremacy by Layla F. Saad. It says how to recognize your privilege, combat racism, and change the world. I'm really, really keen to read this book. It is all about white privilege. I am very aware of my own privilege, and this book is essentially a guide as to how to dismantle your own privilege and how to combat racism yourself, and also to help other people to do that. It's due out in February, and it's really interesting because I think this book sort of started as an Instagram challenge. It says when Layla Saad began the Me and White Supremacy Instagram challenge, she never predicted it should spread as widely as it did. She encouraged people to own up and share their racist behaviours, big and small. Thousands of people participated, and over 90,000 people downloaded the workbook. I think there's a workbook that you can do on Layla's site, so I'll try and find that and link to that so you can find out just more about this project, which just sounds so relevant and so important. So I'm really looking forward to this one. Next, I was sent Keep It Together, Philosophy for Everyday Emergencies by Marie Robert. I think this was originally published in French, and Scribe have just published this English edition. It looks really nice. I love some of the chapters, like Spinoza goes to IKEA. But I think it's just everyday dilemmas that you might face and how some of the great philosophers can help you to deal with some of life's small trials. It looks like a really light but entertaining and thought-provoking read, and I love the cover because I love anything with teacups generally on them. So yeah, looking forward to reading this one. Another book I was kindly sent is The Book of Echoes by Rosanna Amaka, a story of love, hope and resilience rippling through the generations. Apparently this book is narrated by the spirit of a former slave woman who I think was born sort of 200 years prior to when a lot of this book is set. It's set partly in modern day Brixton, and then I think other parts of the book must be set in the past in Africa. So I'm really looking forward to reading this one. I love the gorgeous cover. I'm really interested also in how Rosanna writes about the Brixton of today and her perspective on that. So I'm really curious to read this one. It's due out in February as well. So yes, another one to add to my to-be-read pile. This was a book I bought myself, Little Women. I have a lot of copies of Little Women already, but I couldn't resist this beautiful one that has this amazing paper cut dust jacket. It's got clear plastic on to protect it, so it's a bit shiny, but and it is quite delicate, the cover, but it's just so beautiful. I love the coloured page edges as well. And there are a few other titles in this series. They're called the sort of winter editions. So I think it's Wuthering Heights, A Tale of Two Cities, Pride and Prejudice, and this one might be another I'm forgetting, but I think that's it. And then there's going to be a summer season with a few other titles coming out later. All of them have these gorgeous paper cut covers. So after I saw Little Women, I wanted to get another special edition, and I got this one. I really love it. Another book that was sent to me is The Girl with the Louding Voice by Abby Dare. This one is due out in March 2020. I'm really looking forward to this one. I've heard a lot of good things about it already, and it just sounds like a really fascinating story. It's partly based on Abby's own experience of growing up in a middle-class family in Nigeria and her family having a housemaid. And I think she was inspired to write this story partly through reflecting back on that aspect of her childhood and feeling quite uncomfortable about that situation. And this book is about a housemaid or house girl in Nigeria who's really just treated as an unpaid servant, as a slave essentially, in a household that she is taken into in Nigeria. And I think that this is a topic that hasn't been written about a lot before, so I'm really interested to read about that, this book for that reason. Yeah, so I'm really looking forward to getting to this one very soon. I was also sent this book, We Swim to the Shark, Overcoming Fear, One Fish at a Time by Georgie Codd. The cover is really striking. And this is a memoir, and it's about Georgie overcoming her fears. I think she sort of goes through quite a bad relationship breakup and some other things in her life not going the way that she wanted them to, and she decides to feel stronger about herself and to change her life. One of the things she really wants to do is battle with her own fears, and her biggest fear is fish. And this is about her overcoming that fear, battling with it, and trying to find the largest fish, which is the whale shark, and sort of swimming with that. I haven't read it yet, but it sounds really interesting. I'm really curious to read this one, and I certainly I'm always interested in the topic of overcoming your own sort of personal demons and personal fears, and I think that this will just be a very empowering memoir, so I'm looking forward to this as well. I don't know if it's when it's out, let me check. This one is out on the 30th of January, so very soon. By the way, none of these books have I actually sort of asked for, but publishers tend to get in touch with me. They either just send me books sort of unsolicited, or they'll email me and say, would you like a copy? And if it sounds interesting to me, then I say yes. So I'm really grateful to be sent books fairly regularly. This is another one that was sent to me. It's called The Unpassed. It's about a Taiwanese family living in Alaska. And it sounds like a really fascinating read. There's a young boy who in the family who's diagnosed with meningitis. He recovers, but his sister doesn't. And I think there's some kind of mystery, in fact, around how his sister actually died that he uncovers through the book. It's about immigrants, it's about Alaska, what life is like there, so very much about the natural world, I think, too, and it just sounds a really interesting read, so I'm looking forward to this. This one is out, it was out on the 16th of January, so you can get this one now. Another book I was sent is The Squiggly Career. Ditch the ladder, discover opportunity and design your career. It's by Helen Tupper and Sarah Ellis. I posted a story about this book on my Instagram account, and a lot of people got in touch saying, oh, please review this book and this sounds really interesting. I think there are so many people out there who maybe aren't feeling particularly satisfied with their careers right now, or who are interested in turning a sort of side project into something that's financially viable. So this book seems to be speaking to a lot of people at the moment. I certainly am not someone who has followed a conventional career path at all, definitely very squiggly. So I am interested to read this and to read their tips and advice essentially on how to navigate today's career world. So I will try and read this soon and report back. Okay, the last book that was sent to me is Why Women Read Fiction, The Stories of Our Lives by Helen Taylor. This was also sent to me by Oxford University Press. I think it is out now. Yeah, it was out on the 2nd of January. I haven't read this yet, but I'm really looking forward to reading it. I've looked through it and it does look like a very academic text, which is appropriate for Oxford University Press. So it looks really interesting, but it also looks like it's quite a dense read. But I'm really interested in learning more about why women in particular buy so many books, read so many books, what books especially appeal to women, the types of books women read, the sorts of women who read a lot. I think it's a really interesting area to study. So I'm really looking forward to getting to this one as well. Okay, last book in my pile was one I bought myself. It's called Dear Genius, Letters of Ursula Nordstrom. Used to have a copy of this book and somehow it got lost along the way, and I really wanted to read it again, so I just bought it again. I love this book. It's a favourite of my mum's. It's also a favourite of my grandmother's. She quotes from it a lot. And Ursula Nordstrom was an amazing children's editor, but she also was just such an encouraging woman towards writers, and she sent a lot of advice and encouragement to many famous writers of her time, and her letters are just wonderful to read. They're wonderful to read. So I'm really looking forward to having this book again. I've already started flicking through it, and it's really inspiring and also really enjoyable. So I recommend this one. So that's it, my January book haul. Let me know if any of these titles look interesting to you, if you have any of these books or want to read any of them. I'd also love to know what books you've been buying or reading this month. Do comment and let me know about that. But thanks so much as always for watching. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and be sure to subscribe to my channel to see my future videos. But until next time, bye!